Welcome everyone to the 212th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, February 22nd, 2018. And as usual, I'm your host, Rick Crammond, and we'll be listening to Mr. Keshe of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, and we'll see what's up for this week's activities and various teachings from Mr. Keshe. And I believe he's ready to go for today. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Are you indeed ready to go? Well, Mr. Keshe may not be quite ready to go right yet. I think we might have we lost Mr. Keshe right now? And we're still waiting for him to come on?
I think he dropped out for a little bit.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, we'll be waiting a couple of minutes here, perhaps. I expect he'll be back in shortly. There he is now, in fact. Just let things stabilize a bit. Hello, Mr. Keshe. I think you're coming back here.
Yes, good morning. Good day to you. As usual, whenever and wherever we see and meet each other for these knowledge seekers sessions, we have some problem today with the internet by the look of it, and we have to be able to support it one way or another. It is a nice time to be back again and do some work. I hope positive and inspire some people to endeavor to do some work and expand the knowledge, and at the same time share the knowledge with the others. In the past few days, we have seen some points which has been raised by different people, that some of the teaching people who become what we call the teachers, they are doing different ways of teaching, and they are using the Keshe Foundation name in, and then teaching other things which they just use the platform of the foundation to attract people to their work. We will close these situations down very rapidly. But if you are a knowledge seeker and you do these workshops and you teach and you want to add your own innovations, your own new ideas, you're quite welcome. We are open innovation teaching. But we have seen a number of people, and it's been raised apparently by our team, that they're using the name of the foundation, they're registering as a workshop, and then doing private workshops behind them, the structure of the Keshe Foundation, and teaching their own things, but they're using us as a platform, will shut you down very quickly. But if you are using the platform and you want to do some private teaching and some teachings on the line, or you're teaching people in the places where you nominate, we support you. Bring out your new ideas. You don't have to be copycat by the book, but make sure you don't go and bring resonance games and other games in the teachings, and machines you find somewhere you think you can bring it through the foundation and start selling it. We get the report, we shut you down, and we are taking other actions in that respect too. We should be free to teach, we should be free to bring innovations out. The day when the teaching becomes as it's on the book is the day when the teaching is finished. It's the end of the foundation work. Innovation, teaching, our own pace, our own flavors, our own beauty is the essence of and backbone of our teachings. You've seen how we teach. Really, we allow people to come in and to teach, but a few alarms raised. A large number of people now have become knowledge seekers teachers, and we've seen a few people, very few, are abusing this position. Please stop. Do not teach private and then teach what you want, but using our name to get people to you. Very soon many people have tried it and they will shut down. So please collaborate the correct way, and we support you. And please teach nano coating. Do not go out of the line regarding the code, the procedure we set for nano coating and gas production. And how afterwards you use it, you're quite welcome. how you use it for different things, magnet systems, other bits. That's quite, it should be part of us. You have to bring your knowledge and share it with us. We gave the workshops for people to do workshops on in locations like, you know, whatever they're at home, their lectures or theaters or whatever they do. And now a new uh, way has emerged that the knowledge seekers who have received it easier and they can reach more people who cannot come to them, and they're charging for it. This is welcome. It's fantastic. If you want to do it free or with a charge, it doesn't matter. It brings the essence as many people as possible. But please, we monitor, we go back to the people you taught or you teach, and we start checking what has happened, what is going on, because we saw a lot of misconduct in Germany especially, and we literally closed down the German operation of teaching. And we are keeping an eye on others. We saw some in other couple of other countries. So please teach freely, teach on the internet. If you can reach your mother language or people who you teach freely, I support you. If sometimes some of the people know in some of the exclusive teachings when there's a high level specific category of people, I go and join the workshops teaching online. I've done that in 2 or 3 occasions for high level scientist conferences or meetings that they can understand correctly from the base. I come into your private teachings, if you do it online or at home or in anywhere, to do what you call as a knowledge seekers workshops. And you do it, we support you. If I'm not there, Arman is there and the rest of the Keshe Foundation management team. You have a huge number of knowledgeable people within the structure who come in. You don't have to do it if you have a lot of, or you might be thinking, can I do, what, will somebody be there? We come in, send an invitation. If any of us are there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, we come in to support the teaching, to explain things in more detail. This has to become the pattern of our work. I've done that a few times to people who know how to structure it. I come into workshops, private workshops, conference workshops, and try to explain the fundamental or any questions they might have, because when you go to a high level scientific, some of you might find not security or secure enough to be able to answer questions to a scientist. And this is our job. We come in, but we need to put notice in advance, and if we can make it. So please help us to help you, to help humanity to go forward, but in the right way. And do not bring your you want to teach, you sell whatever, or you teach other, or you've been trained for whatever you want to teach. That don't use the Keshe Foundation, we shut you down. Bring the knowledge you have from there in conjunction with the foundation work, but do it correctly in where we can support you. Because if you teach something wrong or make something wrong and your students do something with it, we don't stand behind it, because that's what you've done. We cannot support you because this is something you tried to, whatever your decision was, and we cannot support such a decision. We can support what is taught by the foundation and support you to expand it. Literatures, other things we can support. The other point is, as a lot of you know, the foundation is reaching the opening of the first massive operation in Accra. And as usual, with structures like this, 9,000-10,000 square meter of factory, with many offices and structures and public presentations, it's normal that portraits are released. We're releasing a number of portraits for opening of Accra. It's been taken, this is for the office of Accra, operation, as the site is nearing more or less the opening next few weeks. And we have released a number of portraits, especially for press and other parts, and for the Keshe Foundation and for the site. Rick, would you be kind enough to release some of them publicly, which you have received? We've done a number of them that it doesn't become a solid one picture everywhere. So could you share it with us, please?
Right. Just give me a minute to get that set up, Mr. Keshe.
Okay, no problem. As we said, Accra becomes a flagship of the Keshe Foundation worldwide, and with it, then it follows Mexico, and other locations which we are working on. And we'll try to operate the same way. Accra will be at the opening of the official opening of the Accra, once all the tests done by our team and everything else in position. It will be opened by a large number of dignitaries, United Nations ambassadors, local ambassadors, ambassadors from different nations which support us, and 2 to 3 presidents of the African nations, African Pan-African Foundation. We have invited we
Sorry, Mr. Keshe, we're gonna.
to this organization and with
Sorry, Mr. Keshe, we missed that last sentence. Your connection broke up there.
Yep.
Just
As I
last
said,
sentence.
yeah, I hear it. As I said, we have become a multinational, Pan-African and international organization, and we have done, as an organization like us will do, we do knowledge for exchange for peace, supporting governments in our ventures, and they have to come and see. And the world leaders, ministers, and others which we invite is here to see what is to be delivered. And it's fantastic what is happening here. I thank the whole of the Keshe Foundation management team, the Keshe Foundation manufacturing team, especially the Shenzhen group, who are working very hard to get everything in time done for the opening. Have you got the pictures? Or are you still searching?
Are these the pictures of with you and Benjamin? Is that what you're speaking
Yes,
of?
as well as 7, 8 of them. You were sent 2 sets of them. You can release more
Right.
time.
Okay. Let me make sure not.
As you know, Benjamin is the head of the Keshe Foundation Africa operation. And Pan-African is covered by Benjamin. He's getting his suitcase ready to travel around. And we thank you for everything he's done in Ghana, and the same with Alex in Nigeria, and Dr. Kato in Kenya, and the rest of the people. We're covering more or less large number of African nations with the technology. Are you there?
Yes, I'm just getting it open now, and I think we'll start off with that one.
You received 2 sets of them. In the set, you can show any of them or all of them.
I think this was one of the pictures. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, let me make that a little bit bigger. What a grand picture of you, Mr. Keshe.
I'm getting old and gray, huh?
Well, you know, but look at that. You've got, you almost are smiling. Most of your pictures are pretty serious looking, and, you know, it's very stately and so on. But this has got just a little bit of a smile and a twinkle in your eye and a certain brightness about it that's special, and I really like it.
I was explaining to Caroline this morning, I said, you should have seen it. We must have taken 200-300 pictures to choose a very few from it. And it was a huge fun. We couldn't stop laughing. The cameraman had to find a space where we were not laughing. And it was a pleasure to take these pictures for the portrait. But it's a happy time. It was very enjoyable experience for both of us. And we were told you were not good enough in the other one, so we had to dress up and go back and take a second lot. That's why you see 2 sets of pictures. Carry on.
Okay. First, maybe before I get to the pictures of Benjamin there, maybe we could refer back to this picture, which was the original one of the digging of the site there, which is an interesting one that sparked off quite a conversation in a previous workshop and so on. Just wanted to remind people of the roots, literally digging at the roots of putting in a roots with the foundation of a building. What more graphic of an image, and you know, representing the changes that are going on.
This is happening the same in Nigeria. and a couple of other places in Africa. Alex is not sending any pictures, but he's heavily involved. He's working on the land very heavily. We will release pictures from, what do you call it, from Nigeria, hopefully very soon from Kenya. The agreement has been reached with Kenya, as we promised Dr. last week, that we support him with 100,000 purchase for the plot. The plot has been found and negotiation. I had Arman clearing the purchase this morning. Then he's very happy with it. He said, this is very, and Dr. Quater is the same. So we have found the land within less than a week or so from Kenya Teaching Center. It's a good enough place, and hopefully the construction, once we finish with other places, start designing, and the management team, the manufacturing side, will design the site for them to start the building of the construction of the site. This we are transferring this right across the world. It's not just Africa, but that started in Africa with what do you call it, with Benjamin and what we went through it, and now it's developing to a different thing. You have another picture?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, let me continue on here. We've got this one. This is the more serious shot of you and Benjamin, correct?
Yeah, it is. It's a number of them. These are all official pictures for different halls, and it's a very extensive building for different rooms. And so we didn't want to be one picture. You know, where you go somewhere, you see one picture everywhere. So we thought we'd do a different one. There's a few funny ones we didn't take out, but they will be put somewhere in the building, private.
And yes, it's a lovely tie you have there as well.
Atoms and molecules and chemical bonds.
And Benjamin has the nanostructure. Is that what that is?
I don't know. Like in these
It could
pictures,
be.
a lot of laughing.
It actually looks that way. The copper nanostructure, nano layers. Okay, so we've got that one. There's another one here I can show.
These are official portraits which will be released to press.
Same two people, but a little bit more of a smile there, and it's just a different perspective, a different way to present, I guess, depending on the occasion. You might want one picture or another. If you had a lot of them, it must have been hard to decide which ones, and some of them might have been different, let's say. Okay, so there's this one, which is, again, interesting in its own way. You almost got you the smile there too, Mr. Keshe. Oh, that's a lovely shot.
If you only knew how much problem the photographer had to have a straight face with those two.
Oh, just to get a straight face, I see. No, they're lovely pictures, so very nice. Let me see, there's one other one I couldn't quite figure out, and I'm not sure what it's all about, so I need to put it in here because I need you to explain what the heck were you thinking of with this picture. Not really, but I'm just kidding. Let me go ahead here. You're both kind of leaning over and can barely contain yourselves because I think you're having fun with this one.
Blown by the plasma wind.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. You couldn't before.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a black screen again. I cannot see anything.
Oh,
I fell out. It's the same thing. It just does not allow pictures to come in.
maybe I should have, if I had them all set up in a folder and had one application rather than resharing, it might have been better.
No, it's okay. It's
I think if you
something
just
local.
reshare, it'll come back through for Mr. Keshrick.
Pardon?
Okay, let me just try that. Let's see, where is it here?
Yeah, don't pause the share.
Yep, it's back.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just sort of kidding that I couldn't quite understand this picture. So I was hoping you might explain a little bit about that.
No, this is the way the guy wanted it. It was, as you can see, we had a lot of fun doing this. And he wanted the picture this way. We said, okay, but it's going to be tilted. But it's okay, it's no problem. It's
Yeah.
a cameraman. And it's fun to be with Benjamin, and it's his laughter to be around here. And I would say, it's a beautiful place to be. Do you have any more, or shall we go to the teaching?
I think that's it on those pictures. Let me see, we can just go back to that one let's end it with this one, which is really just so nice. I hope I don't kick you out when I reshare here, but
Thank you very much. There is a lot of things happening, and we have to, all of us, to be there for the changes which are about to come. Okay, can we go to a normal background?
sure, thank you.
Thank you very much. These portraits will be released on the website in the coming time, for different meetings and official meetings. There is a lot of interest in what we are start teaching with the soul, and a lot of people have started searching to find out how and where, and they start testing their own, what we call their own strength, their own potential, and understanding more and more that what is being taught is within them, and they can reach it. And some are endeavoring to go further in understanding the operation of their own physicality and soul and the way they are structured. What we see, and it's been seen in other places in the past, is that some of you will start seeing interaction of the fields of your body with the others. You will see start interacting with controlling the dimensions of your own physicality. You can control a lot of things with these teachings, but there is a lot of understanding of the physicality. There are a lot of things when I sit and I talk, and I was talking to Benjamin recently and other people. There seems to be, there is a huge need, a demand, or for redefining a lot of things in the world of physics. As a physicist, as somebody who knows a little bit about world of atomic nuclear structure, I think it's the responsibility of us as scientists to open up the books and redefine a lot of things that that what I call the knowledge which brought us to here can be put correct way. One of the things which I see a lot of people have a problem with plasma is, and then when you have a problem with plasma, you cannot control it, you cannot understand it, and then you cannot understand the operation of it. It needs a lot of deeper opening of the knowledge. Scientists like us have to be able to explain it, to put the books right. But the fallacies has so deep rooted that it's very hard to change. If you go back to like the teaching of a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, last week, we explained the situation with like a fish, that the same as when a number of cells together come together, they produce the soul of the man. And for the first time we understand, when the flock of birds or a school of fish, they come to the same point, there is not their physicality anymore, it's the combination of their souls which creates a new dimension, which that become the center for the rest of the flock or the fish, you know, to respond to. They don't need to talk to anything. It's instantaneous. The fear is felt by one fish, that there is, let's say there is a whale around, then it transmits directly into the center soul and everybody else feels it. This is how it works. So if you understood this and understand the way your operation of your soul is, then you can see the emotion of one at any point reflects in the physical interaction of the rest of the group. But something which we have missed, and maybe we have to look into, is the next step to it. Look at how human beings are. Look how intelligence and deviation and diversion has been created. We call it a school of fish. We call it a flock of bird. In human race we call it a city, a village, a town. It's the same process. When we bring so many souls together, so many souls in confined spaces of cities and villages and whatever, we do the same thing as the fish does, as the school of the fish or the flock of birds. So this is why we see evolution and development and response in different ways. We see, now we can understand more why each city and population of each town or village have a specific characteristic. Because now they are the same as the flock of birds, the same school of fish. One emotion, one behavior reflects in the soul. Just because we live in different rooms, in different houses, maybe 2 streets away, 10 streets away, it doesn't make any difference. We have created that mother soul, the mother soul of the city, which then it reflects on the behavior of totality. Now we understand more in the psychology of society of the man, because this is important. Why this is important for us is when we go into deeper space, we become a soul part of a bigger flock from different dimensions of the universe, different races of the creation of the creator. Then what happens with our total soul? We become part of it. We become part of the essential part of the soul of the universe. Then how do we interact with these people? Through our soul. These are the developments, these are the steps that we have to understand more as we become part of the universal community. When we leave this village of earth, then we become part of another village, another team. We carry the soul of this planet because with the connection to this planet is connected to us. Would we have the feeling of the Spanish speaking, or would we carry to us in space the feeling of the French speaking? Or do we carry the soul of the Chinese? Or as we become a universal council, we carry the totality as a part, as a whole. Now you understand more why we set up things this way. When we go into deeper space, we become part of a flock, another city, but the universal dimension. Then how do we reflect their emotion to us, through us, to the man on this planet, that the city where we come from and the language, plus through universal language, the rest of this planet can receive the knowledge of the universe. There are no books in the universe, there is no internet, there is no e-book. The knowledge of the universe is passed through the soul of the man, the soul of the creator, soul of the creature. Instantaneous. This is one of the reasons last week I spoke with the zero-time communication, information transfer. Because we have to open our eyes to the reality of the dimension which is opening to us. Because if we don't, when it comes, we don't see it and it passes us. And we miss a lot. So now you understand more and more why we structure the Universal Council, the teaching and everything else to that direction. And then the importance of these councils we set up emerges into it. The knowledge will not stay with one. There is no need for patent, because when a whale touches 1 million fish in one corner and he feels it through the connection to his central soul, the rest feel it and they take action to protect the physicality. So shall be us. So shall be the knowledge. If one finds food, the rest follow, because then he carries through his soul. This is where the food is. Then the knowledge is the same. The knowledge of the man, by opening up the universal community, becomes so expanded so rapidly that it'll become unthinkable for man of today. Past few days I had the pleasure to be one of the workers at the Ghana factory when I was there, and young boy, masters in nuclear, and he came to me. I was standing watching a heavy rain falling, and he came to me and said, Mr. Keshe, I have a problem. I listen to your teachings, I listen to a lot of, I start listening and reading. What's this universal community you're talking about? What's the Earth Council? What's the Universal Council? Can you explain more to us? Because we don't see it here. I explained to him. And then he said, you know, when you came here 1.5 years ago, the things you told us in the first class, first teaching, and we thought, oh, whatever. And now after 1.5 years standing here in this factory, I see it. You could see it, we couldn't. But now I understand. You were telling us something that whatever you told us has taken shape and it's coming true. And he says, I want to be part of it. More than this. And this is what the knowledge is. We spread the knowledge, and the knowledge has to be received by the soul of the man, not by the ear of the man. And then we can take the knowledge a step further. We have to understand how to communicate. We've been building machinery systems to communicate in no time, shorten the time of the communication between a satellite and a planet or whatever we send things to. But we've forgotten that we have one of the most fastest line of communication. According to the distance, we use the higher strength of the field of the soul of the man. Zero time communication at any time. And this is what we have to understand. This is what the communication, this is what the structure is. But one of the reasons we don't understand these things is because the teaching, the fundamental teaching has been put in the wrong way. I said many times, I wish the bookkeeper would have stayed the bookkeeper. One of the scientists who made more damage to the world of physics and the rest of the knowledge of the man is Einstein. Because he never understood. He only saw figures, he never got the essence. Where people like Tesla understood the essence, but they could not fix it. They could not connect it. Tesla is a scientist, is a true man of science, is a messenger of science. But people like Einstein, they are nothing but troublemakers who never understood and created more. And because they came from where they came, they have to get notoriety, they put more deception and false information in the layer of the society. These things have to be put correct. But scientists who understand now the new dimension, the new understanding. One of these I was explaining to Benjamin. Benjamin is a very high level scientist. He's a master's degree in management and what you call in part of being in the World Atomic Organization. It would have been ending up there, but we were lucky he never went there. But when these people ask questions, they ask you the questions into the depth of the knowledge of the physics. And I was trying to explain, and what he was trying to tell me, I understood more and more that this knowledge is not correct. What is being put out is so false that we have accepted it and we cannot change it. And because of this false information, we cannot understand the work of the plasma to be able to get in touch with our soul. Because we have accepted certain dogmas, certain false knowledge, and it stays in the back of our mind. How can we say if that is false, we accepted the false information, how can we accept this new one? And this is what the problem is. Like the speed of light is the ultimate. And it's stuck to 7 billion people who ever had the scientific knowledge. And all because of one stupid man. One man who never understood. And is given notoriety for nothing. They say in Farsi, we have a very beautiful say, it says, it takes one crazy man, one mental demented man to throw a stone in a water well, and it takes 40 knowledgeable men how to take that stone that you can use the water well. That's how damage they do. This is what we have to understand. And we have to put things correct in that way, in that manner. One of the points which most of you which go into the world of physics, and if you understand it, it's needed to be explained, is the dimension of the atomic structure of any system. None of you are nuclear physicists, none of us do all these detailed things, but we read something when we were in school, or we have been told, or we think we understand. We go back to the origin of teaching, then you understand in so many ways where physics has gone wrong. And in a way we are partially responsible ourselves, because scientists make some points very easy for us to understand, and it becomes so easy that it becomes falsified. One of the things I go back to, because this has to be understood, is in the atomic nuclear structure, what we believe in is one electron, one proton makes what you call a hydrogen atom. Then they tell us one, if you put, I have to increase the thickness of this that you can see it. If you put one electron, one proton and one neutron together, you make whatever, just names. And then they tell us the same thing, if you put 4 of these together and 2 of these things together, makes you helium. And then they tell you, okay, you have 100 of this and you have 50 or 40 of these electrons, this makes an atom of whatever. But when we look at it physically, they tell you the same thing, just put numbers in there. And that's how we see it, maybe with a few bits here, to call it electrons. And if you look, we get this false image. Everything is the same size. And then you do not understand the problem. In reality, when we did, if we had one proton and one electron, this was us. But when we came to the deuterium, this is the real picture, more or less. Just look at the size. Then when you come to helium, this is the size. Now, why? Here, they just gave us dots because they couldn't explain. Here, we know that the material here has magnetic field. And these magnetic fields have to be in balance. This makes sense now. We understand the reality. And Rick has shown us many times. The minute we put magnet, the spacing starts. This is the problem that now you understand. Then if you add, let's say CH3, now you have 3 hydrogens which are there, and according to this teaching there is carbon here, but it doesn't happen there. When you come to a new dimension of CH3, it's totally different now, because now we understand there is a need for a space gap. And then what happens? This has become the hydrogen one there, the hydrogen one here, the hydrogen one there, and somewhere here the mass total of carbon. Then you can see in a matter state the spacing, the size comes into operation. Where in a plasma state, the essence will endeavor to lock into the different strength. The difference between the matter state and the plasma state is in a plasma state, the energies gather within the structure of the plasma and creates a very different small size deviation. Where in the matter state, when you come to chemical binding, is totally different. Now, what you see, this is the plasma of CH3, and this is plasma of copper oxide. And then you understand, totally different. How, for example, the fields of the carbon interact with each other with their colleague of C, what you call hydrogen, creates the green color. If any of these three slightly loses its strength, you'll find different color of it. In that combination, you understand more and more the physical structure of the plasma. Those of you who have worked with gases, with nanomaterials and the rest, should have seen this coming a long time ago. It comes by observation. A lot of the work comes from observation. If you made CH3, just try to see the CH3 you made, and then you made the CO2, and then you made CuO, or Cu2O, or Zn, you should have seen something very different. When you make the plasma gas of CH3, look at it, it's very fine, it's a dust. The first time you wash your CH3, see how long it takes to settle. And then you see CH3 is the only one which actually sits near the cap too. With CO2, you see slightly different. With Zn, you see slightly different. Bigger sizes, dimensions. The settling down is much different. Then this should have given you the size of the ganses of a plasma. But when you look, it's not that different. But when you look at the atomic structure, it's totally different. Here, the essence is within the fields. But CH3 in matter state is very much different. The interaction of the fields of the planet, creating condition of the gases of the plasma into matter state, forces a different condition of field interaction. Read book number 1, the difference between the magnetic field, and then the interaction of magnetic fields creates gravitational fields and magnetical at the same time, where the interaction of gravitational and magnetical creates the next step. And now the interaction of this in fields of gravity, magnetic field, with each other creates weight, mass and inertia. And then a condition of matter state or a plasma state. Then you understand in a condition of the universe why the mass stays constant, but weight changes. But in a coming to understand this, we understand that the gas is in a weight state of condition because it's independent of its condition in atmospheric where it operates. It's itself which dictates its size, not the environment, in most of the majority of the time. Unless there is a link in the field interaction with the plasma, which then it dictates or interfere or interacts with the field that it might change part of its size or dimension. Now that you understand this, Then it comes to the next step. And that is, now we understand the interaction of the ganses. We understand our soul is a collection of the interaction of the fields of all these ganses. And then we are that flock of bird, and or we are that school of fish. And our finger is that fish at the end which smells the food. But in our case, the soul of tip of our finger feels the presence of our love. Would you like to touch it physicality, or would you like to get in touch through the soul of it? Which means you become part of it. This is what we have to understand. Once we go into the dimension of the plasma and ganses, this is what we have to come to understand, that the extension of our existence, physical existence, is the limitation of the universe. It's us who has to decide which way and what we want to do, where we want to be, in connection with our emotion. And then we don't need to say hello, we don't need to shake hands, we don't need to be in any position, if we want to feel another soul. And then through that soul, find the response of physicality. As I said, it'll become harder and harder for man to lie. The more we teach, the more you understand. It's not that. Because then you see the soul. Then it's not you see the soul, you feel the soul of the man. You feel the soul of the creature. And this is how the plasma technology, in understanding of separation from the matter, works, and we have to understand. This will change a lot for us if we go in that direction. If those of you who decide to go in the direction of the soul, if with your physical finger you point at the thing, you don't need to touch it. You can feel its emotion. By looking at something, at someone, you can see in their eyes, in their body, nothing. But you see the soul, which the soul says, I'm sending this, but you're seeing the Chinese whisper there, and there's a lot of lies in what I sent out. But comes another point. How do we feed our soul? How the secret in existence in the universe is, how do we manage to feed our soul? That our soul can feed our physicality, that guarantees the continuation of the existence. The main point in the whole structure of how to feed the soul goes back to the commandments which was given to Moses. Thou shalt not lie. What does it mean in the plasma dimension? Means you cannot give while you're taking. There is a difference between stealing and lying. Stealing, you take and go. Lying, you pretend to give, but you're actually taking. And the soul sees, you see the soul, the interaction is like what we do in a car driving of every day. We have a white light in the front that it shows direction of motion coming to us. We use the red light in the back, as known as a red shift, as the car is moving away. We can see if the soul is receiving or taking. Are you in the white line or on the red zone? Because when it takes and it gets our give, it's actually taking from us, we feel it. Why am I getting weak in that direction? Where is all the fields I'm giving going anywhere else? Is ending up with one, the one is supposed to give is taking. Those who start going the path of the plasma understand the world, universal communication. They will understand there is nothing to hide. And they can keep on lying. And those of you who become more and more expert in it, you see it. Those of you who work on the presence of the knowledge and the, what I call field forces of the existence, you can predict the future through the operation of your soul. Where to be, where not to be, and how to be. Then you plan. Do I want to be here? Do I want my soul to be here to change my physicality? Or I like to experience it, but I cannot harm the others. I cannot steal or lie from the others. Read as you've seen. I've seen in the Universal Council new papers which is coming out. They finished the charter, it's going through translation and correction. The 99 beauties of the soul of the man, which is written in a way is a copy of what is in Quran, that's his name, Muhammad has mentioned, is in it. These are the attributes of the soul. And try to find out how you can connect one of the attributes of your soul to another, and then how one operates within it. You'll find out none of them is connected to each other through lying to each other. And none of them connected to each other through stealing from each other. You can be omnipotent, but at the same time you can be generous. But one doesn't take from the other one because the explanation, understanding of it is different. The structure for us is to understand the operation of the plasma. And in a way, trying to understand how to allow the field flow of the plasma to take the direction of the motion which we want it to. And many of us know, we have tested it. At the beginning of these teachings some months ago, you start talking about the wish. I wish, my wish is my command. Now we come out of the nursery of the wish to the first class of, I know this is the conduct of my soul. But I had to call it a wish because I didn't know. Where the wish comes is where you move the filter to the position that you can give more from your soul. You call it a wish. I see it as a movement, as a shift of the emotion to direction of giving more. It's like a tap. Behind the tap, there is the same pressure of water. It's you who decides how much of that water you want to release. You call it a vow, we call it emotion. Otherwise there is no difference. When you have the water in the pipe behind the tap where you open, that tap, that water does not know and does not care if it washes a hand, goes in the pot, becomes a food, or get flushed on the toilet. Because it's there to serve a purpose. It doesn't say, oh, I'm not going out, this is a toilet, I don't want to go there. Or I'm not going in the pot, it's too hot. Or I'm not going, the hand is too dirty, I'm not washing this one. It shines, it rains unconditional. And this is what we have to understand. And then that extension we do, we call it the control, lying or cheating in either way. This process was going to damage a lot of work of those who made and built the path of belief on lying. And this is what I always said. We are not a religious organization. We are a scientific organization who understands the work of the universe. When you create a religion, you have to lie. That's the essence of it. Otherwise you're no different. And if you are one, you don't need to lie because everything is on the table. This is what you have to understand. When you can control, when you understand the flow of the fields, you'll find out you receive. Is the way of nourishing the soul, is the way to receive it, that according to what it receives, You decide what, in what dimension you want to manifest that field, as a plasma of a gans, as a physicality of a presentation, or as a voice or a sound, or whatever you want to be called yourself. Try to understand the teachings of today. We share knowledge to elevate the soul. But at the same time, we have to clean up some of the mistakes or misinformation due to the lack of knowledge which has been put in. I said in one of my talks, Hitler as a Jew killed so many in the physical dimension. But Einstein as a scientist, as a Jew, destroyed the whole world of the science. More worse murder than actually a man who did the physical part. And a lot of problem we see in understanding the plasma, in understanding work, comes from this, what I call, I cannot find a name for him sometimes. Everything has to be, you understood partially what we talk about Moses, that he stole and he killed, and cheating and lying became his pattern. And we see the same thing with Einstein as part of his path. We have to understand the totality. We have to understand what is and how we can receive. The biggest, one of the last, what I call blockages for the knowledge seekers is, okay, but how can I feed my soul? And how can I convert that into the dimension of physicality? There are 2 points in there. Why do you need to convert in the physical dimension when you can see and enjoy the existence in the dimension of the soul as a plasma? And if you are given a job to manifest yourself in the physical dimension, which is your agreement of your emotion with your soul, which is the physical motion, physical soul with your totality or the soul of the man, that you know I want to experience, but I'm coming back. I'm not taking from you the soul. I'm going to find a new dimension. Maybe I can bring more that we both enjoy. Then you can shift from dimension to dimension. You can change position. You can change from physicality to the dimension of soul. To come to the dimension of physicality of the man is very hard. It's extremely unpleasant experience. But when you are given a job to do and you try to do, you come to an agreement between the soul and the physicality of the soul to manifest yourself in the dimension of man, you take accept, because you know you're safe somewhere down the line. There is a pattern for the work. That you are there to serve. You are there to give from your soul to bring the change, to elevate the others in the dimension of physicality. Many of you who managed to reach that point, as I said, the earth is the nursery of diversity of the fields of the existence. Then in time you become what we call the soul of the prophets in different dimensions, positions in the universe. I've spoken about this before. Then if you get it right and you understand when the message comes like that fish on the corner, which gives the message to the soul inside that there is a change here, there is something happening, then you respond according, that it keeps everyone safe. Then you work within the realm of the universal community. Then when you teach, when you are guided to teach, then you teach the correct way. You don't teach the lying way, you don't teach the stealing way, because it's not ingrained in part of the soul which you accepted to teach. Even though you manifest yourself in that dimension of physicality. Those of you who want to transfer from one position to another, the first thing you learn that you start doing it is that you cannot lie to your own soul and to your own soul of physicality. And then at that point you start shifting, you start moving. It might sound very strange to a lot of you, but very soon, one by one of you, those of you who are clear in soul will understand and start shifting. And start experiencing the beauty of the creation in different dimension and strength. Many of you will manifest yourself in China, in America, in Spain, and you learn. And strangest thing, you'll come to it, wherever you land, you speak the language. Because language is part of the emotion. This is why we chose the universal language as a universal community, as what they call one universal council. Those of you who might have a problem in physical dimension to speak two languages, when you go through the soul, even though you're aware of the physicality of the soul, you speak the language and you look and shape of where you come out. And God knows if you wanted the soul to be Chinese and you end up as a blonde blue eye in the center of Tokyo. It means I made a mistake, I've got to go back in and come out the way I thought. Where did I not get it right? And you find out most of the time, you manifest yourself in a dimension where your field balances are equal, and what we call in the verbal language, you find a peace, you find a balance between the soul and physicality of the soul, that you can go there, but I have to be able to support you. I cannot support at this time with what I have for you to appear with 20 arms and 14 legs. But if you go to a 2 legs, 2 arms, I have enough, we can support it. If you want to be blonde, maybe we can do. If you want to be black, maybe we can do. Then you find you cannot lie to the soul, and you cannot lie to soul of physicality, and then you find peace, connection, and then you find the soul of physicality does not have to need to have the physicality to attract energies to get it fed, for it to feed the soul of the man. Maybe some of you understood what I said. And if you understood, I've shown you how to feed your soul, and through it, feed your physicality. And it goes back to the original teachings, which are always emphasized. The strongest feed the weakest. And if you can take the soul of physicality, which is a smaller but of equal, into the center of the soul of the man, you create a condition that the universal community, universal field forces trying to feed the physical soul, feed the soul of the man, with it, they feed the physicality of the man. This is part of what we have to understand. Many of you were wondering, how can I feed my soul? How can I feed my soul that I can feed my physicality? That it can feed me to exist in any dimension. Now the teaching come together in that part for you, if you understood. And this is how our physicality is fed, through our soul. We brought a sperm and egg to create the soul. The soul in its creation created soul of physicality. The interaction of the soul and the physical soul led to the creation of physical matter dimension, where both are happy. Goes back to the same teaching. Magnetic field, interaction gives gravity. Interaction between gravity and the magnetical field gives you the weight, and then what you call the mass, and then the weight, and the rest of it. Where the mass is equal, the mass is the soul of the physicality, if you look at it. And then the interaction between the soul of the man and soul of physicality and the environmental field forces gives you the weight. Manifestation of physicality. So Any of you, if you understood the teaching of today, can feed yourself anywhere in the universe. But you have to have the trust to understand the strength of the soul of that cell at the tip of your finger. Is that single little tiny fish in billions of fishes that is emotion can affect the totality of a billion. And the trust in the other billion that what it feels is correct, we can follow. And then it goes back to the purity of "thou shalt not lie even to himself." Because if that little fish on the corner said there's a food there and they all go there and there's no food, so much energy wasted that so many will die on the way. Man's demise coming from the lying to himself, from his soul to physicality, and those who are there to be fed and to receive from that physicality. When a wife lies to a husband in adultery, she is demised herself and her own children. The same with a man. Now you understand. When we accept a certain level in consuming the soul of physicality, eating flesh, eating meat, eating vegetables, eating another thing to collect, we steal, and that's the punishment we stay in the dimension of physicality of today. The sooner man can learn to feed his soul through the soul of his physicality, that it does not need to feed from killing another, demise of another soul, then the man becomes man of universe. And now most of you should understand what to do. Because the biggest problem for most of the followers of the foundation in past 7-8 months is, okay, how can I feed my soul that I cannot eat? And past 2 years, 3 years, they went drinking the water. We trapped the energy of the life, of the existence in another water just because we could not see it. We called it the gas water. And then we abuse it because we still touch the soul of the man, or a fruit or a vegetable which was given. This way we are there, what is free is given. How can I explain it in a better way than, if you're in an aircraft and you fly, if you float, for example, in northern hemisphere, or you're going from east to west, or west to east, usually you have a tailwind, or you have a headwind. You arrive much faster when there is a tailwind, and you go slower when you have a headwind. So we need to understand the essence of the creation, and through it, now we understand the soul of the physicality, and we can position the full soul of physicality inside the soul of the man. Then the interaction of the two creates a field, magnetic field forces, what we call the repulsion or magnetical field, which becomes the physicality structure of the man. Then it's easy to feed from the fields of the universe without ever touching another thing. Then the universal community opens the arms, because you're not there to teach them. The other one doesn't want. You don't wonder, what does it taste? This green things with 20 legs, does it taste like a fish? Or does it look like a chicken? A few nights ago, some times ago, last night actually, we were in a restaurant and there were 3 pots of soup. And the people who are around me, they know always says, we are fed up of eating the same animals. It's chicken, fish, lamb, pork, or whatever. We need to create a new animal. And I walked into these 3 pots of soup, and in front of it, it says chicken soup. I said, okay, And my Jewish blood tells me chicken soup is a good thing. So I thought I'd try some chicken soup. They call it the Shabbat dinner. So I put my ladle in to get the soup out, and I thought that's a strange soup. It's a fish in it. I called the guy, I said, have you created a new animal called chicken fish? He said, no, 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 this is a fish soup. This is a chicken soup. I said, no, look guy, it's a fish in it. It cannot be, no, 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 no. He tried to convince me. I said, you created a new animal here, not that I haven't seen before. Then we opened the next pot. It was red and it looked like a, and it says red something fish soup. And I said, look, it is red. And then there was a discussion. They wouldn't serve anybody till they found out what they put in these 30 pots. And one was a cauliflower. It says, this is a cauliflower. It says, we know that there is no lying, there is no cheating. This is a cauliflower. But what's this new animal called chicken fish soup? And what is this one? Oh, it was the red snapper soup. Snapper is a fish. So I said, you got two soup fishes. Anyway, everybody stopped eating, and then the chef came and they went through a lot of discussion what's going on. At the end, they found out they put the labels the wrong way, but somebody has brought the wrong label from outside in. So the chicken soup fish was actually a fish soup. The red snapper soup was a chicken soup with a tomato in, but they didn't bring it out the right way. So we had a good laugh. And I said, now can you imagine the space we're trying to taste new animals, new fishes? Do we need to see how they are? Or do we take their souls when we take them, when we eat them? And then their soul affects our soul. Those of you who think you are vegetarian and you know my opinion about the vegetarian, now I give you something which I never discuss. If as a being we consume one lamb, but none of us can eat the whole lamb in one go. We split it 30, 40 of us. So it's 40 of us guilty for one, or 50 of us are guilty for one soul. But when you consume vegetarian food, each lentil has a soul. Can you imagine how much soul you consume in one plate? But that's not a problem. They say the vegetarians are very calm. I tell you why they're calm. Because they kill so many, the shame of the soul does not allow anything else. The burden on the soul to support what is taking so many does not allow the soul to elevate. And then when you cannot elevate, you cannot evolve, you see them very calm. They're very serene people, vegetarians. Yes, I know you should talk to their soul. You should see the burden on. This is what we have to understand. To what extent we have become to accept fallacies of life. And don't rely on me, analyze it yourself. Then you don't need no priest, no guru, no prophets. In the space you understand what is going on. But you have to realize one thing. What is food to me, I am food to him. While you think you consume, at the same time in giving to you, which becomes the soul of your physicality, it makes itself to elevate to the higher point too, if it's clever enough. If you understand the position of, I serve to be served. So now we understand the structure of the physicality, the structure of physics. If we now understand the reality and then talk and walk into the condition of the conversion of the matter into the plasma, and then through understanding of that, that we can receive the plasma of the fields, we don't need to eat another matter, then you understand how to feed yourself in the space of the universe. And from then on, nothing is delicious. Everything is beautiful to give to. You will run and says, eat me, I want to give you more, you're so beautiful that I can give you more, that you become more beautiful. Not on the matter says, oh, I eat you, you're so beautiful, I have to take you in me. Any questions? Mr. Rick Kramer cannot find his.
I'm here. I got my microphone activated. I'm not quite sure how to approach all that. Is there any questions from people? Let's remind people that if you're in as a attendee, you can become a panelist, or we can open your microphone in order to speak. And we also have panelists. We have 30 panelists here now. If you'd like to say something and ask a question about the topic here. Just looking at the live stream.
No questions is good. It means they're all understood what they've done in their lifetime.
Well, there was an interesting comment from Sylviane in the live stream earlier. I was trying to get it in earlier, but there's no opportunity. He said, "Hello from France. I had a dream this week. I saw Mr. Keshe. He was surrounded by gold house, a gold car. The meaning is Mr. Keshe brings us the richness of the understanding of the soul. Thank you so much for your teachings, Mr. Keshe. Thank you." That was from Sylviane. That was kind of nice. And I see that our screen has, Flint, are you sharing now? I see Mr. Keshe has dropped. That's what happened. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I've got, okay, thank you, Flint. We've got the screen back up there. Maybe a minute or two before Mr. Keshe comes back in. I'm sure he'll reconnect as soon as possible. Let's see, we have had a hand up here. Nicholas, I think it was, had his hand up. Can't see what happened to it. Don't see Nicholas there anymore. Okay. Okay, is Mr. Keshe back in? Just having a look there. Not seeing him back in yet.
Nicholas's hand is back up.
Nicholas is back though. I feel like I'm playing some sort of a game show here, trying to find the host or try to find the talk person. Okay, Nicholas, I'll allow you to talk, and maybe you can bring something up. I have a question about what was just said, and we can just kind of get us warmed up for Mr. Keshe when he comes back.
Well, that was quite a teaching about feeding the soul. That's going to take some thought. I guess my question, no, I don't guess. My question comes to this aspect of vegetarian, and just to hear more about that Mr. Keshe is saying, where he's saying, well, you know my attitude, or you know my thoughts about vegetarian. Well, I don't, because I guess I don't listen to everything, but I am very interested. I guess I'm a vegetarian. I've always related to it as being a meat-eating vegetarian, because if I'm at a table and somebody's serving meat, then I'll usually have a bite of it or so. But I find that I don't care to put meat in my body. it seems to be harder to digest. Maybe that's in my head, how well does one know themselves?
But he's talking about killing other beings, basically, and that's the whole thing he's saying, is that you're killing many more beings by being a vegetarian, like if you're eating, I suppose, say wheat as an example, or grain. You might, if each grain is a separate being, and you'd be eating many beings, as opposed to the meat eater, where one animal, one being would feed maybe 20 people or something like that.
There's
That's
another,
sort of the concept.
there would be another argument that says that the plant itself, the wheat, let's say, would have maybe 1,000 babies, but the calf itself would have only one, So which one is, more evolved? I always considered that breathing, living, moving animals are higher evolved than vegetation, and vegetation is higher evolved than minerals and so basically that maybe there's kingdoms of minerals, kingdoms of vegetables, and kingdoms of animals, and our quest would be to love from the top down the best we can, but nobody's going to go and try to save the rocks and kill all the cows, let's say. So we're going to try to save the mammals first, what is, all the very
So you're
higher
saying we should
evolved animals.
So it's better to be a vegetarian?
In my view, I think that's, I never actually heard that statement.
Well, Mr.
But
Keshe has said this several times. He's brought it up in the past. He's brought that perspective forward that, yeah.
Do you want to know how Mr. Keshe explains it?
I would love to. Thank you, Caroline.
He says, I prefer to kill one animal, one soul, and share it with many souls than to kill. If you have a bowl of rice in front of you, each grain is a soul because it has a new offspring of life in it. So it carries its own individual soul, each grain. So if you eat a bowl of rice, you can imagine the amount of souls which is in that plate. So this is how Mr. Keshe is trying to explain the proportion. And not only that, he repeated quite a few times, he says, I prefer to have one soul to share with many than to take so many souls and you think you're not killing. But that one single grain carries the same soul as that one, let's say, bigger animal. The killing is in no way, no measure any different.
But what if getting it from the thought, the intellectual, you can say that, I just can't feel it. Because I'm a gardener, I take care of the plants, I help them grow, I save their seeds, I recompost their bodies, I take the plants into my body, and they become a part of me.
Yes, can I?
I know that. So it's a living exchange with the plant, and becoming it and saving their seeds. And part of the plant, one plant would produce, many seeds, and so it's so beautiful to harvest the tomatoes and bring them in and see them ripen and then when one comes to eat them, it's a celebration. At the same time, you pull out some of their seeds and you put them in a little plate and you take care of them in such a way so that you have to treat them a certain way or they're not potent, and you treat them a certain way as they're potent, and then you dry them and you put them away so then that they can be planted and they can grow. So I become a part of the plant, the process of the plant reproducing. And I feel that, you know, it's a part of it. I can't, when there's beautiful seeds come out of something or a squash or something, I can't throw them all away. You know, some of them have to be saved, and some of them get back into the garden. Some of them get into the fields, and in that way, I'm a part of that cycle. I'm a part of the plant, and that makes me happy. It's beautiful to plant one's own seeds, and then you know, they're grown with love. The people that are growing them, yeah, they're growing them to take it to market. Or if I'm growing something, I know I'm going to take it to market. And I participated in the growing. I haven't done the growing. I participated in the growing and the health of the plant. And then that goes to the market. And then, you know, somebody sees the plant, it makes them happy. There's something in it. They eat the plant, it makes them healthy. It has also something to do with the soil that's grown, that's been taken care of. And so one tries to eat, you know, from locally grown food where you know that people have put their, you know, love and care into the growing, and it hasn't just been growing the plant so you can make money or something like that. That feels a whole lot different to me. And then if you have to be out and you have to eat, you don't know where it has come from. You don't know how it was grown. You can have a feel for that. Then somehow you bless it. Somehow you're also blessing the whole kingdom. It's not just the plant kingdom. It's a kingdom of a life. You know, it's all the same somehow. The life. It's just differentiated out into different beings. Some plant beings, some animal beings. But
Okay, well, let's let Mr. Keshe respond to that. You've delineated a good argument, you might say, for the sides that go for more of a plant-based diet and so on. So what do you say?
well, I don't. It's not an argument. I mean, this is
Well,
not an
you're presenting a viewpoint, a perspective of many people. That's what I'm saying. It's not
Oh, thank you.
an argument in terms of a debate. There is a debate about this in many realms, you might say. I think Mr. Keshe can help clarify.
Thank you.
I hope. Is he Mr. Keshe there? I'm not sure if he's back yet, actually. Let's see. Mr. Keshe, are you there now? See you on the list. Might be having connection problems there. He was trying to get in to speak earlier, but
Do you also remember, Rick, in the time till Mr. Keshe comes back, that we have become numb? We have put the noise of what we chew so far in the background of our being that we don't listen anymore. We prevent to listen, but the pain and the suffering is caused. And that's why this knowledge is here to start understanding and to explore it and try to make it in a way, in different ways, to accept for people the way we look at animals, plants, trees, or whole environment, that we take a responsible position in how we are conducting ourselves in this paradise. And that some things, because it's not because they're a habit and it's not because they've been there as a custom and for so long, that doesn't mean that it is okay. And that's the road and the path we're trying to make awareness in how we can change it. And the respect, and a lot of people, as the gentleman just came to explain, a lot of farmers have respect. A lot of people which are running farms have respect for the animals. And I know a lot of people have pets and animals at home. But we have to understand the difference between the reality and what we think is reality. And I think this is the message Mr. Keshe is trying to make clear for all of us. We simply did not know. It's a long, long, long time back. It was known. And the beauty in so many ways is, if you look at the Indians, they will not take a single life unless they request and they ask permission of the soul before they will kill the animal. Even the plants, the herbs, the fruits they consume, everything has a ritual of respect. And this is something we are not so close in touch with anymore. It's the way they have been brought up through their ancestors. That knowledge is still present and they still apply it. And we can learn a lot. And this is the path Mr. Keshe is trying to explain, that maybe it looks okay, but that doesn't mean it is okay. And very slowly, in different stages, we're bringing the reality onto the table. Because, as Mr. Keshe is trying to explain and extend, what's the use of trying to cover it up when the truth sits in a totally different position? And if we are honest to ourselves to look into it, we can start inspiring ourselves and others to start looking at the path of truth, and not to fool ourselves that we try to make it more or different or better than the reality is there.
If we go back, sorry, I got dropped off. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the backup. Um, if we, in response to what I heard about taking vegetables to the market and looking after them, and why do we feel this way or the other, is not to promote vegetarian or be a meat eater, is understanding the truth. Just being honest with ourselves. Is not to attack, or is not to say you're worse murdered than others. No, understanding the reality. Then is for us to judge our condition and our position. And maybe those who are vegetarian become faster plasma consumers because they understand the position of what they are doing. Maybe there is another point that it's harsh to understand, but the fact is very simple. And that is, you know, I explain this in a very simple way. When you bite your friend, your child, or whatever, as a pleasure or as a bite as to hurt, we do different kind of biting. Huh? When there's a lover bite, which is a pleasure, there is a child bite, which is love and tenderness. I love you because I want to bite you. I do that to my children. I bite their cheeks and say, "This, I can give you all the energy through my teeth." And then there's a bite we do out of anger. But it's still all bite. We have justified it in different way, but it might all hurt the same. The same way, is not to feel guilty of who's killing more or who doesn't. We had to find a way to survive. So it's not finding justification, it's finding how we have found a way to survive. If I bite you in the hard way, you shout and howl. This bite, I put a piece of your meat in between my teeth and I bite you. This is how we consume. So it has to be parallel. Now, if I walk into a place where everybody is biting and shouting and stuff, I become deaf to it. I create a threshold that I don't hear anymore. It's like you are sitting in the noisiest place, like in the airport, but you're concentrating to speak to your lover on the line, and every noise in the background is blacked out. Doesn't matter who's shouting, what they're announcing, you don't hear it. Say, oh, what did they say? Have I missed my flight? Or did somebody shout something? Because we have created threshold. What we are concerned with is the lover on the other side, confirmation of our existence on the other side of the line. The rest we are deaf to. So is the way we eat. It's not that we don't hear the biting of the soul of the cow or the grain. We have made a threshold, we don't want to hear it because we know we need it to survive. Does not justify the job, just because we don't hear. You try to cross a red line and hit another car and say, sorry, I didn't see a red line. The light wasn't on when I crossed it, I didn't see it. Doesn't matter, you made the accident. Is not justifying vegetarians or whatever, but understanding the totality and understanding what we do. Maybe this explanation brings us to faster move away from consuming, killing another, or lying to another soul. I look after you, but you got to give it to him because I got to survive. Why do we offer ourselves as a lover? Because we want to give. We don't care if you're loved or not, but we want to love. We confirm our existence. We have Valentine. Confirm we exist. We can love. We can give. So it's understanding the reality. Is not trying to take position. Once we start taking position, we are blind to the real facts and the truth. But understanding it is different. And justifying it is different. There is no justification for termination of a life. Does not matter how we do it. But as a human, as the other animals on this planet, we have found a justification. I have to eat to survive. Now we found the others who made a copycat without physicality. Says, I drink a gan's water, I don't kill any more animal. Another fallacy on top of the other one, justification of the same. Just because we have made a threshold in our brain, in our ears, in our soul, that we don't want to hear the shouting and howling of who we bite, doesn't mean we haven't bitten, we haven't eaten. But being open to it, that understanding it, is the opening of what's next. Maybe that's why vegetarians have said become faster people of the plasma. Maybe that elevation of the soul needs more and it receives more faster. I know the answer. I prefer to stay silent. We are not here to blame or to separate. We are here to understand the reality, the totality, the truth, what it is. If he applies, if you're so concerned about, I'm not killing an animal, and then you accept that the vertical people are the same as horizontal people, then Where is the justification? Somewhere is misleading one's soul or playing with the color of the truth. That's what I said. In this time there is no profit. It's the realization of the truth by the soul of the man through the soul of his physicality. The soul of physicality has to justify its existence to the soul of itself. And if it steals, the soul will not accept. This is not yours. We didn't have this agreement. You bring home when it's clean. Why do you think the man dies so fast? The soul cannot take everlasting of demolishing. One of the reasons our demise is so short, is our life on this planet is so short, is the soul not accepting such a mass of killings, stealing, lying to steal. It's very much like you put a seed in your hand and you say to the bird, come on darling, come on, I'm so generous, I give you food. And when he comes to take, you grab him by the neck and then you eat. You're lying from the seed. And then you're stealing your life with it. You're using another soul to capture another. And this is what has to stop in the universe. We're becoming men of universal community. We should not look at another thing as a food. And then we have to be honest with ourselves. Doesn't matter, we look at when you look at somebody and it's beautiful, you look, you understand the beauty and you understand the desire of beauty, what it means, what is so beautiful to create. And then if you understand that beauty is a reflection of the Creator, for you to enjoy his existence and not for you to abuse, even though the other one that might not see it that way, then you can live a correct life, as long as you know what is the wrong line. I have a beautiful white dog, it's called Topoli, we all love him, it's a mascot. You walk him in the places where they eat dog, what do you think? I look at him as a beautiful animal, they might look at it, oh, it must be beautiful, tasty meat, huh? It looks beautiful, it must taste good too. But the reality is, some of us eat dog. So, who's lying to, and how do we look at the same position? Does it look at it as the beauty as I see as the soul of the beautiful animal? It gives me so much pleasure. Or does it look at it, oh, it must be very tasty, it's white, it's delicious, it's playful. But it's the justification. And there is no justification. There is no judgment. This was one of the things which is there, thou shalt not judge. You cannot judge. But you can judge your own behavior in respect to your soul. Even the soul cannot judge in respect to the soul of physicality, but can understand the position, the elevation. I go back to it many, many times, and one day it opens up and it hits the home and understands. Many people lie to me every day. I watch it and I say, I see the soul. Let it be. In time will correct itself. But sometimes the time is the cause of the demise. It takes age because it knows it's a lie. Not from me, from the one who lies. Because you have to consume energy to protect that lie. When you consume energy, you give from your life. You age. You have to always cover up. And when you understand this, the life changes, the soul changes. It's the same. We have deafened ourselves to the truth, and then we try to justify it. Because it's the reality is there, we cannot. And if we cannot discuss these things like this, now that we understand part of the truth, part of the total reality, till the other part opens up to us. You know when it's going to open up to you? When you open your ears. When you take that barrier of deafness away and you hear the voice of the soul of the grain, you hear the voice, the emotion of that cow or that beef or whatever, then you become alert. And we are not preachers. We are here a scientific organization. We have to understand scientifically what we are doing. Just because we close our eyes to it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And just because everybody else does it, we do it, it doesn't mean you have to do it. Just because everybody is a murderer, you don't become a murderer. And then we don't need to justify it. Because the others do, we do too. If I don't do it, I die. If I don't, I'm a beautiful guy. I eat it and I put the seed that it grows. So does the bird. Eats the seed, flies another place, excuse my French, it shits the seed out and it becomes a new plant. This is what we have to understand. No justification. Being honest and understanding the process. This is the whole thing. Because if you understand this, when you're in a space, you become the judge of your own behavior, not doing things out of fear. The whole part of this teaching, especially with the soul, is to take what has been put in the soul of the man out of fear and punishment out of the equation. Then you think logically. You take a logical procedure anywhere in the universe. You don't look at the thing as beautiful, can I eat it? And then if I eat it, would I die? Because then it's out of the fear. And then if I eat it, would it eat me? And then out of fear. You haven't done it because I don't eat, there's enough for me, I enjoy the beauty. I wrote to somebody this morning, I met one of the most beautiful women, most probably in the world, past 24 hours. And I said to myself, she makes a beautiful representation of humanity for the Keshe Foundation face. Because it shows the beauty of the creation, that we can all enjoy the beauty of the Creator. But then we have to understand the essence of, is the beauty just a skin deep? We don't know the person. We pass them on the street. Then do we hear the shouting inside? There is one thing, and I ask all of you all the time. You come here to learn, to understand the work of the universe. Do not judge and do not allow anybody to judge you. Take from it what is according to your understanding, what you're at peace at. Because then if you're not at peace with, you steal from somebody other part of your life. But if you understand this is it, this is a sequence of events, I'm here because of it or due to it, then we progress. Then in a space we have no prophets to cheat us. You know what they say? Oh, all the people from planet Zeus come here. These earthly people are here. They think they're all prophets. We become like the South African, what do you call it, South Americans. They were waiting for a blonde blue eye. When it came, they gave all the golds to it. And a whole lot of them did. Then it was the Spanish taking all the gold back to Spain. But somebody said, when the God comes, it'll be blue eye, blonde hair. Who fooled who and who used their foolishness? If Mayas knew half of the Europe are blonde, do you know how many gods they will have? I use it as a joke with a member of my family because she married a blue-eyed blonde. He's a gorgeous man. And I say, if you found your God, you become a Spanish too? We have to be correct. And the whole purpose of this teaching is not to take offense, not to take position, but to understand the science. To understand the truth about the process of creation, because this is us. We are the creator. We create our own physicality. Would you like to manifest yourself in the shape of a cow that somebody eats you? Or you say, no, I'm going to go as a seed and I get eaten. Or you make yourself a big plant with a lot of thorn and you sit there, nobody can touch you. But you don't know the animals are creative and they evolve and they make you think that your whatever thorns cannot touch them. This is all we're trying to understand. There is no judgment, there is no, it's understanding the reality, what is there. If you rub two stones together, they make a noise. If you rub stars on a planet, they make a noise. We call it the noise of the earth with the sun. And what do you think does when the soul of the tooth of the man rubs against the soul of the seed? Makes no noise. Does it make sense? Or is it just justified? I don't want to hear this part. But if taking a step that we understand more, that we can take from the energy of the universe without harming no one, then we have matured. Everything has to fit, not just where we want it to. The process is simple. It's us who's got to be truthful to us and nobody else. Any other question? Hello?
Yep, we definitely hear you, Mr. Keshe.
I hope the soul of man hears my soul. Then we have solved the problem.
Well, I think we're going to have still a lot of discussion on this because it activates people and makes them think about what it is that we're eating, or what is that process of eating, what's that all about. And for example, it's not really about the numbers of souls that are getting eaten in a way, because how do we determine that in a way? Even when you're eating meat, wouldn't each cell of the meat have a soul in a way? And that, how would you determine it? Or is it each organ have a soul? So if you eat too many organs, you're eating too many souls. And this can't really split it down that way, can we? Pardon me?
Yeah, I mean, you're correct in a way, but when you look at the total, we are looking at the individual thing. Doesn't matter if a grain has many souls inside it.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Where do we split the grain, basically?
You see, this is the whole purpose of the whole knowledge, is for us to understand the truth. Do we need to? Because in a way, what I'm trying to do, and I repeat it in different shape or forms, and I've done it maybe 10 times today in different languages, is becoming aware of our behavior. This behavior is not tolerated in the universe. Because who's the next one you want to eat? I'm in so many ways trying to explain that in a space you don't die of hunger. You know where to find the food, not to find your own demise. And it's not to finding justification. Do I eat less with eating meat? They still got cells. So does the grain has the souls. So it goes back to the same. We're talking individual systems.
Right.
One animal, one grain. You understand?
Yes.
But is to understand, to find another way to find nourishment, to confirm existence.
Well, what if, for example, you mentioned, I think earlier, about during the act of eating, when the teeth are crushing these, basically you're crushing the cells, crushing the souls, and it's, you know, this chaos and turmoil going on inside our mouths in terms of the, you know, if you were that piece of wheat or piece of meat, it doesn't really matter. It's a bunch of crushing and gnashing of teeth going on. But what if we were to be, you mentioned being aware of that. What if we were aware of that in the moment so that we could feel and bring to life actually those entities, so that when in the act of eating and it going down our throat and so on, we could feel that aliveness and feel it in our heart at the same time, so that when we take it into ourselves, we can essentially bless it and elevate those souls, so that when they are transformed, transmuted, die, they don't die. In effect, they are transformed. The energy's transformed, becomes part of us. If we elevate them so that they become part of us to help elevate ourselves so that we can elevate others, wouldn't that be more of a proper way to stop that cycle of destruction and turn it into something that's an elevating process?
You know, you play the computer game. I don't know what's his name. It's a famous computer game. You have dots, and then you have to through the maze you run, and then you have little
Yep.
things.
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man, and then when you eat the Pac-Man, and he gets a soul and he flies. You know the one I'm
Okay.
talking about?
Yeah, eats the ghosts.
Yeah, yeah. And then you get more numbers for it in your number. You add to your numbers. When I look at this game, it really reminds me of human race and our behavior. We eat, and then we eat all these little numbers, we don't get much. But when we get a big one, and then he gets a soul and you get the bigger numbers, you know? So does that soul bigger number adds to our soul? Have we become a computer game collecting numbers? And is that a way which we actually collect part of the physical, part of the soul of the man, of the physicality? And the answer is yes. There's no doubt about it. But uh, what what we got to understand, and man, as I said, if you go back to the teachings of before, we lose many men into space. We lose more men in deep space than we ever lost in any other battle on this planet. The reason is because, first of all, we make a lot of mistakes. Secondly is that habit of taking and possessing and owning and eating. Don't forget, it sits in our RNA, huh? It sits in our DNA. We still look at it, it's delicious to have. Shall I taste it? And then something rings a bell. I'm not that anymore. I have evolved, but still there. It's in, they say, what is in the RNA from the first man is still there. You think you're going to get rid of it? Being able to control it, being able to be on top of it, is much harder than actually getting involved in it, because at the end you eat something which is a virus, you're done. In a way, most of the teaching is helping you to be able to stay, to survive the environment of the universe. It's no use not going to a place there are so many beautiful women or men, just in case I might do something wrong. You go in with the strength, I don't do, but I enjoy everything of the beauty of it. It's the same position. And being aware of it, that moment of weakness does not come. Because that could be your demise. That'll be the time when your physicality, the soul of physicality cannot operate outside the parameter of the soul. Because now the soul is position, not you as a soul of physicality. You're allowed to fall in love as many times as you like in the depth of the universe with the beauty of the universe, but you cannot destroy it. You cannot, just because we opened a park and it's been taken so long to beautifully arrange it, for you to go in there and ramshack like a, what do you call it, bull in a china shop. We're trying to stop the bull before we open the door of the china shop. We're trying to civilize man to the way of the universe. Civilization is not like here how to learn a fork and how to drive. Africans without a fork and knife and their driving are more civilized in so many ways. Civilizing means this is my limit. I don't need to be enforced on me. And this is the difference between being a man of the Keshe Foundation and open of a university, universal community, than a religion. Life by fear. You do this, you punish this. You do that, you punish that. Fear should be out of not harming, not fear of being punished. That's the language of space, that's the language of the universe. Man has to change habit. By defining itself, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And trying to justify it, make it worse. But in a way we have come, it takes time, we're going through a transition. We were not aware of. Now we are aware of, you cannot justify.
Mr. Keshe, there's some comments from people regards to that, like Natuber from YouTube says about this teaching about killing and eating is very true. And how do we get out of the prison of our ingrained habit of eating? Mentions I have desired to eat nothing, and when you understand about the plants and so on, that they're like us but in a different life form, then what do you do? Because you can't eat them, right? So what do you do then? Because I am at that point a long time now, he says. And other people mention similar things about how, you know, that what about the food station? Is it trying to find a testimonial, something about that? So they're wondering, what are the options, basically? What can we do? Or is that too matter level to way of looking at it?
The option is to learn, and if you listen to the teaching this morning, I already mentioned it. And in progressive time, we'll try to explain more and more. Try to understand the work of the GANs. Try to understand the position of plasma. We said all the time, the weaker gets fed by the stronger. The position of the soul at the tip of your finger, if you go back to the teaching of the past, I said, if you look at the mint, has got many tips because it absorbs so much energy from the environment. And at the same time gives back to this environment. The finger of the man, the tip of the fingers of the man are the first points that are weaker in mass, that they can absorb energy from the universe. That through it to elevate the soul of the physicality, that the soul of physicality can feed in the interaction the physical part and the soul of the man in conjunction of the balance. The soul of physicality is in a very peculiar position. And this is why we cannot go through the transition how to feed ourselves. In one way, has to be answerable to the physical dimension of the soul, and then it has to be answerable connection to the soul of the man too. This is where we call emotion of the thing comes. It becomes the emotion between the physicality and the soul. And then this way, as you learned that the weaker always receives, that becomes the source of the food, source of energy from the universal community, from the universal soup of the plasma. Nothing else. But this is what we haven't realized. We can tap in so easily into the dimension of the strength of the universe, knowing that by mass, by weight, by whatever you call it, in the mass structure strength, we are weaker, so we receive it. We have never tapped into it because we couldn't know, we didn't understand. The easiest thing is look at many pictures of given by the people who raise their hand into the skies and they receive. Why do we do that? It's not that I'm going to give, I'm receiving. It's very much in other teachings I've taught this, but somehow it gets muddled up, it doesn't get connected. It's like the what do you call it, the guru. I explained to you how by a slight change position of sitting, he feeds himself. You can do that. Any one of us can do. Always said, when I came, I know the term I came. And I came on the term to enjoy, to understand the pitfall of physicalities that I can know in my next cycle how it can be done. But with it comes the pleasure of physicality too. I said to Caroline the first time, she said, why have we come here? I said, I've been sent to enjoy the physicality of beauty of a woman, to understand where the pitfall comes. It's not just the beauty, they bring a lot of mess and the problems. If you don't find the problem, if you don't understand the problem, we can't solve the problem. I was yesterday in a chemist, and the discussion goes between two guys sitting and a woman on the other side of the counter. This guy, young guy, is giving a lecture to the other guy why you want to get married. This is it. When you get married, it's this. And I said to him, are you married? You're giving such advice to this guy? He said, no. I said, how can you give advice when you're not married? You haven't been in a castle to know what's outside the castle. You're outside, you think you know what's inside? We can pretend, but it's not the fact, huh? He hasn't been home a night that there is no food because you're 5 minutes late. He says, I should have eaten yet. Never come home late or whatever. Because to him, he's trying to teach the other guy, you come home every day, there's a candlelight, there's a food and everything else is heaven. He doesn't know there's all the headaches, everything else, blah, 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 the rest of it. I wish I wasn't married. At least I knew I eat outside. That's it. I had my food. I come home to eat. There's no food at home. And I thought I'm married in Madonna. It's the reality we have to accept. We can fool ourselves. But we have to understand how to tap into the universal energy. That's the whole purpose of more or less the Keshe Foundation teaching. If we understand how to tap to universal energy, we cannot, we should not, we will never touch another soul. We do not need that aircraft, we do not need to get heated, we do not need to have material, we do not have anything. But we exist in totality because I can still be a body, I can still walk the streets, I can still enjoy the swimming in the oceans, but I don't touch. Because as I walk, what is there I need comes to me. I have started the process of building the first feeding stations. Where to you a feeding station is mixing something in there and putting something there and getting a banana into the water, and this is not the way it is. The new, what I call the feeding stations, which we create for disasters coming up very soon. You don't touch anything. You walk through and you get fed, but you have to understand what you're feeding. It's no use me giving you banana when you're allergic to banana. But the banana is there if you need the material from it. The feeding stations, which I've started developing and creating, and as you know, I don't do anything. I teach knowledge seekers that the knowledge spreads and it goes like a wildfire. The new feeding stations is designed to feed the soul of physicality, not the physicality, even though it looks that way. And then you stay fresh. You're fed. You go, as you walk through, it takes me 1 second to feed you. Less than a millisecond. Why do we rest? Why do we sleep? Because to recuperate what is not in balance, I give you all the balance. You work 24 hours a day. I don't want to sleep anymore. You know, since I go to the station, I have no sleep because, of course, everything you needed is in the mixture, is in the soup pot. You don't need to have a rice. I already cooked the rice in it for you. And if you like cauliflower, it's already in there. But I feed you through the soul, not through the physicality. As long as you're trying to make systems to feed through the physicality, always fails. And then I was explaining this past couple of days, past couple of weeks, we have developed, the development is complete, that you can walk in with as many cancer tumors through a system, within 5 seconds you walk out, they can't find a single tumor. This is not theory, this is understanding. I don't take his tumor out. I invite the soul of the tumor not to be where it is, not the condition which is accepted to exist. It flies. Zero time communication. If you can communicate in zero time, there is nothing for a cell of cancer to be there. If you have Alzheimer's and you understand the soul of the man, why has decided not to listen, and he calls it Alzheimer's, not to exist, and you can elevate the soul of the man in that point, he remembers the first word he said in the womb of the mother. This is what we got to understand. This is the whole purpose of teaching, going in that way. And it's not going to happen tomorrow and the next week. It's taken me 5 years to teach you a lot, to start even trying the Gans water. And now you have to try the Gans of the soul of the man. God help me how long it's going to take me to get you through with this. But it has to be ingrained in the RNA, in the recording, not in the physicality DNA. Because then RNA would not allow DNA to make the mistake of taking life to feed itself. Then you understand the difference between the soul and the soul of physicality. Teachings are becoming very hard because now we blame everybody. This time we have only to judge our soul in respect to our physicality, and that's it. And we cannot blame, because blaming does not bring elevation. Blaming brings demise. We have to destroy something when we blame to confirm something else exists. But if you understand, we allow everything nourish in balance. Any other questions? Have we passed our time, or are we within our limit?
Oh, I think we're still well within the time, if you're still willing and able.
Sometimes I'm getting an old man.
Older but wiser, perhaps. So
Now
you're
look
still...
at those gray hairs in the pictures. I say, my God, where did those hippie hairs go, and all that black hair?
Yeah, indeed. Eh?
I remember walking into the first lectures after Queen Mary College as a hippie with the torn jeans, and everybody else was in a suit, very smart, and they became nuclear engineers, and to me it didn't matter. And I remember, bless his soul, Professor Leslie said to me, Mr. Keshe, this is not the way we're supposed to dress here. I said, do you want me to come with balmaske and dressed up like a monkey for you? It's the knowledge which counts, not the dress. And they left me alone from that time on.
Well, I don't know if they left you alone or not, but there's been definitely a healthy respect for your independence of many of the influences of the so-called higher realm of learning.
Any other question?
We have...
I
Oh.
I This is Elizabeth. I have.
Yes, go ahead. You had your hand up. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Last week on Exploring Plasma Part 3, no, that would have been this week, with the Polish team, I had a beautiful aha moment when Marcin explained how to deal with pain, to consider pain as a bully and our soul as the teacher or mentor or source of all, and to take that pain and send it to our soul for it to transmute it and then to feed from whatever the soul transmutes it to. And I really experienced 0 time pain relief. At the same time, I see how that would work with our feeding. If we go to the plants and just put our hands around it and ask the energies to feed our soul, then would our soul not just take what we need from it and feed us that way rather than actually ingesting anything? It was a really aha moment for me.
Yeah, but there is, I'm going to extend on it,
Okay.
maybe a, a, not a correction, but um, um, an insight to what you just said. I think it symbolizes, or it actually brings everything to head on. And you just said, I put my hands around the plant or whatever and tell them to give me what. And this is where we have been wrong in all our lives. In so many ways, why do we urinate? Why do we go to what we call a big toilet? Because we give what we don't want. Because if we keep it in, we cannot take any more. Have you tried to eat healthy and all week and not go out? Or don't go to urinate? You explode. The way you explain that we put our hand down the tree is not that take me, I take from you what I need. Is I give you, do you need anything from me? Because it's me who wants to exist, not you. You're existing on your own. You're a beautiful plant. You don't need me. But what would you like to take from me that by giving you what you enjoy, I have a capability to receive more? We have looked at the whole cycle of life the wrong way around. And this is what it goes back to the teaching. We gotta fall in love. But fall in love with what and who is deserves or wants to receive our love. It's no use me keep on telling you I love you when you're blind to it. You don't feel it. You're another piece of meat in bed. But if you respond to the love, I take your love and I give you more back, that comes existence. You don't go to a plant, can I take from you? No, it's exactly you want to, excuse my French, but you want to urinate. Why do you do it that way? You're trying to still teach. This is the line which we got used to. I want to give, can you take anything from me? That by you, what you take, if you give me, I don't mind, but at least I have more to receive because with me, I'm blocked. This is the story of the oil industry. If we don't burn the fuel in our cars, they charge us, we pay for it to burn, the refineries cannot work, the guy cannot make billions out of it because he needs you to take the, what I call the urination of the oil industry, which is the oil we put in the cars, that they can get the others to make millions out of it. Without it, all the tanks are full, you cannot do anything. We have to be honest with ourselves to understand it. Then there is no pain. Why do we have a pain? Which means we cannot handle. The soul is not in comfort with the physicality. There is a blockage. We have to redefine, and us not to be the center of the universe, for not us to be the center of the creation, and not us to be everything. But us to be a giver, a lover, that we can let others live. Does not matter how we live. We are here to serve, not to be served. We are here to serve. And what you said, I'm here to be served. You serve me, then I see I survive.
So it's the appreciation for the plant and the willingness to offer it anything it needs from yourself.
That's the way it should be.
Okay, thank you.
That goes to the writing and the ethos of the foundation. We have hidden the essence of the creation in the word of the man. We are here to serve and not to be served. We are here to give. We are going to the plant, to the animal. Give me what you have, I have to survive. What about if I give from my soul to the animal? You take from me, because if you don't take, I die. We have become liars to ourselves. We have turned it because it justifies our existence. And this is what all my teaching from 0 point has been this, and we are getting to it. We want to tap into the universal energy. My God, we want to give to the universal energy, because without that we cannot tap into it. We're giving it not out of fear, we give it out of the love, because my existence is irrelevant. We are not preachers, now we understand the science. You have to become stronger to give, because that's the only time you can give to the weaker. When you are weak, you take. And when you are stronger, you give from a higher level of your soul, higher level of existence. And when you are higher, you're not afraid of the lower. We got to understand, we got to put everything in order, that become a man of universe. And many world leaders have started understanding what we are talking about. They're understanding, they're flourishing, the progress of their nation is not by what has been done up to now, but making a nation to be a giver to the others, that by receiving they become balanced, they bring peace. I am teaching this to the most powerful people around the world, and they're grasping, they're understanding, they start to understand all the wealth, all the power worth nothing, because they start understanding they've been lying even to themselves, let alone to their nations and to the what they call subordinates. The richest people with the biggest money worth nothing. This morning I received a text. A man has a problem, but he's very rich, he's prepared to do a lot for the foundation. I wrote back, tell the man to come and see me, I don't need his money. We are rich enough. You have to be rich inside your soul, that you're strong enough that you can feed the weak, not to have a pleasure I can feed. You don't become another king and a queen, but you become the elevation of when that I fed becomes better than me, that with it I can receive, that I can elevate myself to the higher. It's a ping pong ball. You always bounce off the weaker to become stronger, than you can bounce the others at the same time to become stronger than you. Not afraid of what you might lose. Be proud of what you give.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. The experience of relieving the pain, and the pain was simply because I'd been sitting cross-legged for about 9 hours listening to different workshops.
There is, I know you do a lot of transcribing and translation. We have made a decision in the Keshe Foundation. Those who are active transcribers, in the next few, very short time, we are donating financial support to you as one-off, to thank for what you're doing for rest of us. Without you, the way you're transcribing so dedicatedly, you put your time and life on. We have, as I said, as the foundation progresses into the right direction, I discussed this with Caroline even yesterday, that We have to send an apparatus, as we said, as we are developing to support our transcribers. And I know you and many people, I received a list of active transcribers. We thank you for it, and the only way we can do in a physical dimension, except what we give from our soul, the foundation will make a donation to all of you in a very short time. Please, you are the active transcribers. We have all the details from you, and let us at least to thank you this week.
That's very amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome. The Earth Council document has been translated to 17 languages up to now. If you speak any languages, go on the list and have a look. I think the webmasters can release it and transcribe it. And don't let the people of your soul of common denominator language to be behind. Does not matter, you're not the active Keshe supporters, but you understand how to translate it, and it'll be there for somebody you might elevate their soul in the time to come. And the Universal Council final document has been agreed by them, as I've been told, and it will be published as a charter for Universal Council on the same list of the Earth Council. Any other question?
We have we have a question from Sylviane in the live stream. It goes like this: Mr. Keshe, if we have sufficient understanding and elevation of soul, and if we can manage our emotions and accept events, would we have the possibility in the dimension of our physical soul to return inside our memory to recover a physical event from the past, and by interfering with conditions and modifying the surrounding fields, recreate a new reality?
No. Back to Future doesn't exist in the soul. Sorry about that. It's only in the movie.
And he says, in some way, parallel universes starting from a particular point.
Doesn't exist. It's a very good storybook. It's like Einstein and his speed of light limitation.
So what about the idea?
Let me put it in a phrase we all understand. Does Father Christmas exist?
Well, for a large part of the smaller part of the population, yes.
We're talking about the physical dimension, except
well, this is it. Do the other dimensions exist? Then maybe that should be the question, because that puts it more difficult. Because in a way, you could say, are there other parallel universes that are happening right at this moment? And can we access those parallel universes?
There is something very interesting, and in a way I have touched on it a few times in the teachings in past times. You've got to find the right way to put it, that a lot of you don't start making a what do you call it, hullabaloo about it and all sorts of things about it. I've explained
You're doing it again.
You have to laugh at the humor of the universe sometimes. Right at the point where he says, I've explained, it was about to launch into something I was really looking forward to.
We are not ready for it now.
Well, I was. Maybe the world isn't, like he said. Yeah, this is the difficulty of entering into this realm of some of the harder to understand things and things of other dimensions and whatnot. all of a sudden the transmission shuts down. Okay, well, it may be another minute or two before we get Mr. Keshe back online here.
There's a question or thought I had. It's Nicholas. If I may.
I think Mr. Keshe might be back already. Just hang on a second. Nicholas, are you there, Mr. Keshe?
I got lost. Can you tell me where you heard, please? Hello? Can you hear me?
You said, I'll explain. Let me explain, I think you said. And it cut off right at that point where you started to launch.
Did you hear about the fish?
No.
No.
No fish
okay.
here.
So
Sorry.
it means the soul of the man is not ready to
I
hear
knew you
about
were going
the
to say
fish.
that. That's
Okay. Let me explain. Let me explain again. If you go back to teaching a few weeks ago and in other teachings, I referred to the existence of suddenly out of nowhere when we have a rain, we see fishes appearing. If we take the dimension of the everything there, there'd never been a fish, there'd never been a river, there'd never been there for hundreds of years, for example. But the fish suddenly appear, life appears and everything else. The understanding of it is very simple now that we understand other parts of the technology of the foundation. When you put an orange and you created the salt water or the water with a gas in it, with the right gravitational magnetic field, you transferred the essence of the taste of the orange into the water. But not many of you have gone to the next step, or none of you up to now have gone to the next step, to take the cup somewhere else and take the essence of the energy of the taste which you felt inside to convert that back to an orange, which is you can do. If you understand this part and you can extend your understanding to the next step, that you took the cup of the water with the essence of the orange and you took the cup from England to New Zealand and you drank it and the cup of water was there and it still tastes like the orange, it gave you the feeling and the emotion and everything. So it means the information is carried inside as an energy, the soul of the orange, and if you know how to transfer it, you can convert that cup with that energy of the orange to an orange in New Zealand. Now, if you understood this, because the first time you done, most of you done this orange, so it cannot be fantasy, is now you have to adjust your knowledge to be able to do it. If you have the salt and the sea, and now you have created a balance of the salt and the sea, and you understood the school of the fish and the soul of it, how did the fish come today in the new pond out of nowhere? So the atmosphere of this planet carries the essence of the fish. It's part of us. We haven't learned to tap into it, but we eat the fish, but we haven't learned to take that energy from it. So all of us can actually tap into that essence. The way the fish, because we created the right condition, manifested itself in the pond. Now, if you understood this part, because now you're educated, these are not fallacies, because you've tested it. Now you go and test. Now we find a lot of orange creators and the fish creators around the world. Or we say, I put a cup of water there, why didn't I get a fish? Did you get everything with the atmosphere of the planet created for that fish to be there? The same as all the protein and everything else? Then you understand how transmutation of life across this planet exists. You call it a parallel, what do you call it, universes. We have it's not a parallel. Now you understand the transformation of the protein of the orange into the water, then you have to understand. Then you have to understand. In the dimension of the universe, if you can create the same condition, you can have the replication of life across. As the same as the fish from the water. It's the transfer of the energy balance of the same. But there are not many places in the universe are the same. It's happened, I've been witnessed 3 or 4 times, but not on this planet. You're not from somewhere else. This creature is called human, is a strange thing, is created of his own. But those who gave this knowledge to the man were explaining, man has taken it to himself and made all the hullabaloo about it. So there is parallel, you have to understand the parallel. But to create another condition like Earth, exactly as it is, we do not have. Not in this universe and not beyond. They are similar to it, but it doesn't allow transformation of life. Because if it was, the places which are, they are so advanced, they don't eat anything, but they exist, the beauty of the whole creation. Now you have to understand parallel universes, because now you understand the reality, because you do it. You create a parallel universe in the cup as in the orange. It's a universe on its own, it's a life on its own. You're replicating it, and it's so close that when you drink it, you feel it, you taste it, you have the emotion and energy of it. So this is the answer to a lot of you who talk about the parallel universe. Understand, yes it is. Because you created it, now you understand the fish exists. Then you understand how come you get elephants here and elephants there, but the slight difference because they adopted. Or did somebody take an elephant? But nobody took an elephant from Earth to planet Zeus. We haven't seen any elephants there yet. Because we don't have the condition of it for it to exist. Earth is a very unique condition, and it creates a very unique soul. And it's very hard to replicate this. Very hard. I tell you something, the creator has tried many times to get himself changed. With this thing, get them right, he hasn't managed. That's what I'm here trying to fix you lot, that he gets pleasure of it. Any other question?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, I have a question, if I may.
Go ahead.
So I'll ask the question and then I'll try to qualify it a little bit. And
I'll tell you something, sorry. You ask the question, and while you're asking it, try to think about it and answer it yourself. It'll be a much better pleasure. And if you can't, I'll help you.
very, very good. I have you. So maybe it's a test, because yes, I have found an answer to understand it. So the question is where does this desire that arises in one to share come from? So it's connected to the soul. So when we're full, we have to excrete. When we have received and we're full, then there's this urge to give. So one comes in and they find that they're in life and they have these skills, they have these abilities that come and develop. And at one point, you say, well, I do this, I am this, I can be this and whatnot. But at one point realize that none of these are yours. None of these belong to you. They're gifts that come. And then there's this urge then to share these gifts because they really don't belong to you. And in a certain way, the foundation asked, well, you've been here now for 2 or 3 years. And so we're calling on you now to give back. What you've received in a certain way doesn't really belong to you, but now you have that. And so it's this urge, and I say it's an urge within the soul somehow to to give back these gifts that have come to you, but they or have come to a person, but you realize at one point they really don't belong to you. Um, something
You
like that.
know, something which is, it's become a path of life for me. And maybe I had to go through it, and maybe is a way to explain it. Um, I come from fairly wealthy family, and through education and understanding life and seeing life in different ways, I became very wealthy very rapidly at a very young age. And with it, I realized detachment. And the detachment comes when you think I can have a, let's say, 2 suits, and I don't need two, I can do with one, and support somebody else to have a suit. And then you find out, okay, if I have 2 suits and I do business at this level and they say you the same thing, as I always say to my children and people around me, a man's brain, he sits on it, he doesn't use it. And their eyes, they sit on it, and what they see with their eyes exists with them. And I came to understand something very, very simple at a very young age, early 20s, very, very early 20s. And that was, I can have what I want, I just got to wish it. That is a desire for me to, with what I get, to give me the pleasure of, I can transfer that pleasure to the others. And I learned that very early in life, that I became detached. I live a very poor life. I don't live like a what you call a hermit. I have people others. I live a very correct. I can live a pleasurable life, and with it, it gives me the facility to accommodate the others. And then it's this sacrifices and suffering does not exist. When you suffer your soul, how can you help somebody else not to suffer? It doesn't fit. And this is what we got to understand. It's understanding a maturity of soul to understand that by having it, you know the pleasure of it, that you can give it, that the others enjoy. Very, very few people, as they get, they stash away, and they think, I have to hoard. But have you ever stood still? Those who hoard money in the bank makes a lot of money out of them to help the others. Even the ones we call Scrooges, the only ones who don't progress are the ones who put it in a sack and lock it up and it goes nowhere. Even in a sack, the essence of the emotion can be transferred. So it's not how we feel. I'm not a sentimental, I'm a very logical man. Maybe that's why I became a physicist. To me, everything has to make sense. The only thing which doesn't make sense is falling in love. And I know why, because I'm a giver. I fall in love so easy. But, and then my son says, Papa, you got a problem. I said, what's your problem? He says, you go to Africa, he says, the most beautiful place, wonderful place you've been. And then you go to China, you say the same thing. Which one are we going to believe? I said, because they're all beautiful. Because I see beauty in everything. And then when you fall in love, you can give. And this is something we have to understand. Doesn't mean to suffer, to put and something else. It means allowing, when you suffer yourself, you cannot progress to allow others people not to suffer. It's the way we live, it's the way we've been taught the wrong way. How can I make somebody else happy when I'm suffering? I'm not happy myself. They feel the emotion. They feel that they sense the vibration. They were talking yesterday in the teachings, and I told Rick, I'm not teaching about the voice this time. No way. But in our voice, we transfer energy, we transfer sincerity. There is a some of you work with in different places with dimension of the foundation. We are making a documentary, whatever we needed for something, and I saw the paper. The text is written and is read by one of the Keshe Foundation members of the foundation, and then there is a text on it. We have this voiceover. We have this person voiceover, and then they put in different links to different people who can talk it over. You know, professionals, speakers, or whatever. And I said, no. The man who's actually read it carries the essence of it, because you feel the soul, you feel the knowledge coming from it. It's not written. I said, we have such a beautiful thing, we keep it. We don't need to bring a voiceover, because the voice carries the soul, carries the information. When somebody listens to this documentary with the voice of the man who's read it, because he's part of the setting up the structure, he understands it, it carries the soul. Man has not understood this yet. And I tell you something, it will be million times more effective to where we want to show it than putting a voice in it, just somebody doing. This we have not understood. This is what I said. When you speak, when you say to your lover, I love you, and she has to think before she answers, she's lying to you. Because response is immediate. When you tell your lover you love her and she's somewhere else loving somebody else, or he's somewhere else loving, you feel it. Doesn't need question marks. This is why when I fall in love, I tell, this is because it's there, it's giving. I came to Africa 30 years ago, and I just fell in love with the simplicity and the beauty of the continent. The man doesn't need to lie. He goes up the tree, he has the food. Why should he lie? Those who come in touch with the white man have become liars. You see them. You walk, you go into the Central Africa, go into the villages with the people. They are simple people. Because what they need is on the tree and on the land. They don't need to do anything else. They've seen the white man bringing a radio. They might want it. They might do something. The purity still sits in the continent. Go in Europe, it's nothing but cheating and lying, and they become better and better in each way to do it. You understand the soul. The planet has a voice. We carry, as I said, when we carry the school of fish carries one to the others. And then you understood the soul of the city sits in it. Then the cities and the planets carries the soul of the man. And the universe can hear it is crying. That's why we are here. We heard the cry, we respond. But the man is deaf to hear his harming himself and nobody else. He's stabbing himself and says, I'm shouting, somebody's hurting. It's you, stupid guy, you knifed yourself. And then you can blame anybody for it. You can accidentally walk on a piece of glass, but you cannot blame anybody if you put a glass on yourself. And the man is doing this, and he's blaming everybody else except looking that actually the pain is coming from his own hand. Shall we call it a day? It's nearly 3 hours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you indeed. I hope we understand what is about to come. And I explain to you something else before I go that it might enlighten you. As we could transfer the fishes across this planet, you can imagine what you can transfer from one soul to another, which is made of the same medium. Needs a lot of wisdom. Thank you very much for today, and hopefully we'll come to some more teaching next week. I tried to speak about the voice, if you like, next time, and the music.
Okay, perfect. Yes. And for those who are interested in joining a new group that's forming regarding music, and it's in the community.keshe Foundation site, and you can join the new group called KF Music, and we're going to get together and contribute towards some sort of musical productions. It'll be more than one production, just putting out different kinds of music. And we already have some people like that have come out from the sidelines, such as Gatua, and we didn't realize that Gatua had a music album over 10 years ago, and it's quite beautiful music, so maybe we'll get to play some of that at some point. Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Very great teaching today, and we look forward to learning more about the use of the voice and the use of sound in general in this teaching.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Okay, that wraps it up for the 212th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, February 22nd, 2018. Those who have any questions remaining, hang on to them for next time, or send them to us and we can try to address them separately. Okay, Flint, do you have some music to take us out on?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.